Christina Applegate lost everything in an instant. She has finished her last TV role. Her most recent film was cancelled. Because of a sickness that is killing her body, she is no longer able to work. However, her illness is not the true controversy. It is what occurred decades ago and no one was aware of. The decisions she made as a child, the predators, and the abuse. Even her biggest fans will be shocked by the tragedy she will disclose in her upcoming memoir. Not all secrets were intended to remain hidden. On November 25, 1971, Christina Applegate was born in Hollywood. Her father produced records. Her parents divorced shortly after she was born, although her mother was an actress and singer. Before she could even recall, her career in show business began. She and her mother made an appearance on the soap opera Days of Our Lives when she was only 3 months old. Because she was unable to pay for babysitters, Nancy Pretty accompanied Christina to shows and auditions. Occasionally, when her mother performed, the infant was lured onto the stage with M&Ms. By kindergarten, Christina had already joined the Screen Actors Guild, although other kids her age were still learning to speak. She appeared in a commercial for a Playtex baby bottle when she was just 5 months old. Her single mother relied on it to keep them afloat, so it wasn't simply adorable. Toys and cartoons were not part of Christina's early recollections. They were about waiting for the next scene while on site and listening to stage orders. Stephen Stills, a musician Nancy briefly dated, once gifted Christina a guitar that she kept for years. She only knew that world. She was more than a young star in Hollywood. In it, she was surviving. Christina debuted in a bizarre horror film called Jaws of Satan when she was 9 years old. It was about devil-possessed snakes attacking an Alabama community. Christina portrayed a businessman's daughter, and the movie was so unpopular that it was hardly released. Still, it was her first foray into professional acting from baby advertisements. She then went on to television programs including Silver Spoons and Charles in Charge. Her performance in Heart of the City earned her a Young Artist Award in 1986. The majority of children went to the park in the afternoons. Christina used hers to practice lines in film scenes. However, there was something extremely terrible hidden underneath the accomplishment. Christina was called fat by a local lad when she was 8 years old. The single word had a powerful effect on her. That one incident, she subsequently claimed, marked the beginning of a protracted struggle with food and self-worth. Her mother signed her up for Weight Watchers when she was 15, just as she was getting cast as Kelly Bundy in Married, with Children. Christina stopped eating healthily. She would only eat 5 almonds on certain days. She would remain at home and scream if she ate 6. It appeared that her mother was unaware of the harm. Nancy only inquired, "How'd you do it?" after Christina lost 110 pounds. Christina was cast in the part that would make her famous in 1987. She played Kelly Bundy, the blonde daughter in Fox's daring new sitcom, at the age of 15. The 11-season program contributed to Fox's rise to prominence as a major network. It was different from anything else on TV, humorous, and crude. Christina's portrayal of the stupid blonde gained notoriety. Her quotes, often referred to as Kellyisms, became beloved. However, she was starving herself in silence while making millions laugh. She suffered from an eating disorder for decades. It wasn't until 2024 that she publicly discussed it. She talked candidly on her podcast with Jamie Lynn Sigler that year. She claimed that she simply quit eating because of the extreme pressure to be skinny. For years, she wanted her bones to be visible. Nobody was aware. Although she appeared okay on TV, she was breaking on the inside. She still has trouble with mirrors. To keep from crying, she writes messages on the glass. At the age of 19, Christina Applegate landed her first major film role, but it didn't turn out as planned. Keep the Babysitter's Death a Secret from Mom. It hardly made an impression when it debuted in theaters in 1991, earning only $4.2 million on its opening weekend and ranking number 6. It only made $25.1 million overall. In the beginning, Christina had no desire to work on the movie. At the time, she was still working on Married with Children and had little interest in commercial movies. She eventually acknowledged that she pretended to be superior, even accusing herself of being a jerk for being so challenging on set. However, the movie gradually gained popularity in spite of its poor box office performance and reviews. People began watching reruns on cable and rented it on VHS. It developed to become a cult favorite over time. Viewers identified with her performance even when critics failed to recognize her potential. When her long-running TV show ended in 1998, Christina realized she needed to take risks. At the age of 26, she was prepared to establish herself as someone other than Kelly Bundy. She picked 2 films that year that couldn't have been more dissimilar. One was the big hit, a crazy, action-packed comedy in which she co-starred with Mark Wahlberg. The other was Mafia, a blatant parody in which she portrayed the fiancé of a mobster. Although neither movie was a huge hit, it wasn't the main objective. She was eschewing her previous persona. Her first significant foray into adult roles was in these roles. And they demonstrated to the industry her ability to work with characters who were more complicated and edgy. It was a calculated, cautious adjustment, and it was successful. She went much farther with The Sweetest Thing in 2002. People assumed she and Cameron Diaz had known one another for years because of their effortless chemistry. The movie wasn't quite well received by critics. Even though Roger Ebert acknowledged that the film wasn't very excellent, it was difficult not to respect the way Christina, Diaz, and Selma Blair put themselves into it. The movie was intended to be a female adaptation of There's Something About Mary, complete with outrageous situations and wild humor. It was a turning point for Christina. For the first time, audiences viewed her as a romantic lead rather than as a sidekick. The industry also paid attention. She was able to take center stage thanks to new offers and more opportunities that resulted from her on-screen relationship with Diaz. Anchorman followed in 2004. Christina portrayed TV anchor Veronica Corningstone, who was modeled after journalist Jessica Savage. She was able to play another renowned figure in this role, this time on the big screen. In a film that relied heavily on improvisation, she competed with Will Ferrell and his comedic crew. The script didn't even include many of the scenes. Veronica became more than just a character because of her timing, delivery, and self-assurance. She came to represent Christina's progress. Fans greeted her return with open arms when Anchorman 2 was released in 2013, almost 10 years later. She had developed into a daring actor who could design her roles and compete with anyone on film after starting off as a young sitcom star. Christina Applegate had always wanted to be a Broadway performer. That goal was eventually realized in 2005 when she played the lead in the Al Hirschfeld Theater's revival of Sweet Charity. From May 4 to December 31, the musical performed for 279 performances. She received a nomination for a Tony Award for Best Actress in a Musical, a nomination for a Drama Desk Award, and a Theatre World Award for her portrayal as Charity Hope Valentine. Her transition from comic television to musical theater astounded critics. Having studied dancing since she was a little girl, this position felt like the culmination of all her hard work. However, the path to Broadway was not without its challenges. Beginning in Minneapolis on January 25 and continuing through Chicago and Boston, the show had a difficult 3-city preview tour. The show has high physical requirements. The intensity was constant, and the choreography was intricate. Nevertheless, Applegate was committed to overcoming everything. The night that altered everything then arrived. During a Friday night performance in Chicago on March 11, Applegate shattered her right foot's 5th metatarsal bone. She continued for another 20 minutes until the pain compelled her to quit, even though it had occurred in the first few minutes. The performance had to be completed by her understudy. 2 days later, Applegate persuaded producer Barry Weissler to keep the play going on Broadway, despite the producer's initial refusal. Her passion was too great to stop there. To support her injury, she wore special ankle-length tan medical boots when she returned on April 18. She started wearing these boots on stage. They reminded her of what the show was costing her, but they were also vital. Despite the pain, she continued to dance. Her body was telling her otherwise, but she didn't want to give up. It became out that her foot was permanently damaged. Applegate acknowledged in 2013 that she was no longer able to dance. She had always wanted to go back to Broadway, so she said it with regret. She had been involved in dancing since she was a little girl. It all ended with that one injury. It altered her perspective on her job. Even though she occasionally danced when she could, she was no longer able to pursue the physically demanding parts that she had formerly enjoyed. She was honored to earn a Tony nomination, but it was painful as well. It demonstrated that she had made it to Broadway. However, it followed the injury that put a stop to her dance career. Dennis O'Hare, her co-star, gave her flowers on opening night and told the crowd how much she deserved to be on stage. The guts and effort it had taken for her to get there were encapsulated in his comments. Jonathan Schack and Christina Applegate appeared to be a match made in heaven. After dating since 1997, they were married in Palm Springs on October 20, 2001. Although everyone believed it would last, there was a problem behind the scenes. Schack filed for divorce in December 2005. In August 2007, it was finalized. Christina kept a Lexus and the houses in Los Angeles. Schack took a Buddha statue and a Mercedes with him. Neither sought assistance, but the subsequent events were even more depressing. He fell into a dark place, according to Schack. He resorted to casual sex, drugs, and booze. God seemed to have deserted him. Instead of ending in rage, their 6-year romance ended in remorse and silence. Christina had to deal with something even worse less than a year after the divorce. Lee Grievous, her ex-boyfriend, passed away by himself in his Hollywood apartment. He was just 26. An overdose of heroin was the cause. Near his body, a syringe was discovered. On June 29, 2008, 1 month before his 27th birthday, he passed away. Around 2005 or 2006, while her marriage was failing, Christina had begun dating him. Before he became a photographer, he had worked as a fisherman in Alaska. His drug addiction caused their relationship to dissolve. He has struggled with addiction in New York since he was a teenager. He tried cocaine and other drugs after being expelled from school for using marijuana. After a brief reunion in April 2008, they had broken up by the time of his passing. Christina was devastated. She stated he was an amazing person and that she will miss him terribly. Then she received the news that would forever alter her life. Christina received a breast cancer diagnosis in August 2008. She was only 36. During a regular MRI, it was discovered early. She had been evaluated since she was 30, but she had no symptoms. Nancy Pretty, her mother, had twice survived breast cancer. According to tests, Christina has a mutation in the BRCA1 gene. This indicated that she had an 87% lifetime probability of developing breast cancer. She had a 44% chance of developing ovarian cancer. Christina didn't hesitate when presented with these figures. She decided to have both breasts removed even though only one had cancer. She expressed her desire to stop returning for tests every few months. She desired mental tranquility. Many were startled by the decision. She was just 36. She was a famous performer. Her appearance had always been a part of her job. But she followed her instincts. She was deemed 100% cancer-free a month later. She didn't require radiation or chemotherapy. Although difficult, the surgery had been successful. She later acknowledged that she had screamed and cried at times. Joking that she would have the finest boobs in the nursing home, she attempted to maintain her sense of humor. However, beneath the humor, the suffering was genuine. She used that pain to do something significant in 2009. Right Action for Women is the charity she founded. It facilitates the necessary MRI examinations for women who are at high risk for breast cancer. In many cases, insurance does not pay these screenings. Millions have been raised by the charity. In one agreement with Essex, the business promised to contribute at least $100,000 toward the cost of further screenings. Even though it hurts, Christina has persevered in turning her darkest moment into something that could save lives. Christina Applegate made a daring first move when she returned to television after being married and having kids. She played a single mother attempting to improve her life while working at her father's German-themed pub in the 1998 sitcom Jessie. She was portraying two very different women on television because the show ran concurrently with her latter seasons as Kelly Bundy. She was nominated for a Golden Globe for the first time. Despite its brief 42-episode run, the show demonstrated to the public that she was more than simply a one-liner loving youngster. She demonstrated her ability to carry a series and received the People's Choice Award for Favorite Female Performer. The difficulties faced by her character seemed intimate, as if Applegate was attempting to overcome the legacy of her early notoriety. Then something unexpected happened. She had an appearance on Friends in 2002 as Amy, Rachel's superficial sister. Her performance was remarkable, even though she had never seen the act before entering the set. In 2003, she made a second appearance and won an Emmy for it. She acknowledged on her podcast in 2024 that she had only recently begun watching Friends, 20 years after it was filmed, and that she was shocked that she had won an Emmy for a show she had never even seen. Despite being one of her most memorable parts, she quipped that it didn't feel like work. Applegate took charge of her career in 2007 when she starred in and served as executive producer for Samantha Who, a television series about a woman who loses her memory and must discover who she truly is. She was nominated for 2 Emmys and 2 Golden Globes for it. With a girl who had to reinvent herself after everything she knew, the show came to represent personal transformation. Was deleted. Nobody realized at the moment how closely this narrative would resemble Applegate years later. She won the 2008 People's Choice Award for Favorite Female TV Star for the 35-episode series. But it wasn't always that way in real life. A stalker pursued Applegate and her husband, Martin Lanabelle, in 2012. The messages were frightening and violent. "You took Christina away from me," one tweet read. "I will murder you." His head was threatened by another. Days after they started, the LAPD was able to secure a search warrant for Twitter due to the severity of the threats. The stalker was never located, but the account was removed. At the time, Applegate already had a young kid. She was compelled by the event to make her house more secure. This was not the first time it had occurred. At one point, someone had broken in and put on her clothes. Then came the turning point in the story. While filming the last season of Dead to Me in 2021, Applegate received a multiple sclerosis diagnosis. In retrospect, she saw that the first indication had appeared years before. She brushed it off after falling while sprinting while shooting the pilot. Her condition rapidly deteriorated while filming went on. She needed to be wheeled to the set. Even though she couldn't accomplish basic tasks like opening doors, she persevered and completed the season. "I found out on a Monday after work that I had MS," she later said. "A disease I'm gonna have for the rest of my life." Her honesty about the disease shocked everyone. "I don't enjoy living," she confessed. "I don't enjoy things anymore." She described her life as living in hell. She gained 40 pounds. She now needs a cane to walk and fears falling in the shower. Holding a phone, opening bottles, or even standing up in the morning can be overwhelming. Sometimes she just gives up and stays in bed. Her world shrank down to her home and she barely leaves it anymore. Things got worse in 2023 when she ate a salad at a restaurant she trusted and contracted sapavirus. It caused days of intense sickness. She described it in painfully graphic detail. Diarrhea, dizziness, vomiting while trying to collect a stool sample. She learned the virus came from ingesting someone else's fecal matter. At one point, she woke up in a pool of her own waste without realizing it. She had to wear adult diapers. She told People magazine she had been to the emergency room more than 30 times because of stomach and intestinal issues. The pain and vomiting seemed never-ending. Finally, in 2023, she made a heartbreaking announcement. She said she didn't see herself working in front of a camera again. Waking up at 5 a.m. and working 12-hour days just wasn't possible anymore. She made one last appearance at the Screen Actors Guild Awards and called it her final awards show. But she's not giving up completely. She plans to do voiceover work to support her daughter and keep working in some way. One of those projects includes reprising Kelly Bundy in an animated Married with Children series. Christina Applegate has always been known for her strength and sense of humor. But in June 2024, she let the world see something else. On her podcast, she quietly admitted something that left listeners stunned. She said she was in a depression so deep that even getting coffee or going for a walk felt pointless. She didn't try to dress it up. She simply said, "I don't enjoy living." At 52, after decades in the spotlight, this was the most vulnerable she had ever been. Later that year, things got worse. In November 2024, she opened up about what living with multiple sclerosis really felt like. She wasn't vague. She said she lay in bed screaming from sharp pain. She couldn't pick up her phone. She couldn't open a bottle. Her hands had given out. During that same podcast, a fellow MS sufferer described the pain as knives in the stomach. Christina didn't even try to soften the blow. She just said, "It's the worst." 2 weeks after her mental health confession, headlines exploded with rumors about suicide watch. That wasn't true, and she quickly cleared it up. She said she was never on suicide watch and never had been, but she explained that speaking honestly about mental health was healing. It helped take away the shame. She knew the media had twisted her words, but she wasn't going to apologize for being open. By early 2023, her body had changed in ways she couldn't ignore. She had gained 40 pounds due to her medications and being inactive. The woman once known for her dancing now used a cane. She said she didn't feel like herself anymore. Watching herself on the final season of Dead to Me was painful. She couldn't get through it all in one sitting. She wanted people to know she was aware of what they saw, but they didn't know what she was going through inside. Then came the night of the 2024 election. Donald Trump had just beaten Kamala Harris. Christina went online and posted something that lit up social media. She told anyone who voted against women's or disability rights to unfollow her. She said her daughter was sobbing. She said she was shutting down her fan account. When someone made a sexist comment, she didn't hold back. She replied with pure rage. But the internet doesn't forget. By the next morning, she tried to apologize. She said she was sobbing, not angry anymore, and just wanted to watch Bravo shows. But for many fans, the damage was already done. A few months later, in January 2025, wildfires tore through Los Angeles. Christina, still reeling from the election, exploded again. On her podcast, she slammed people who said Hollywood deserved it. She defended her city. She said most of LA was made up of regular people, not celebrities. Her co-host tried to calm her down, but Christina wasn't in the mood. She said she was done being quiet. That podcast sparked another round of online backlash. Some said they supported her. Others said they were done with her. But Christina wasn't slowing down. In March 2026, her memoir, You with the Sad Eyes, is set to come out. It promises to reveal trauma she has never talked about. Abuse, body issues, abandonment. She started acting when she was 3. That means there are years of stories the public has never heard. She said the book won't be dramatic for drama's sake. It will just be honest. She said it's scary, but it's time. She had one more chance to return to the role that made her famous. An animated version of Married with Children was in development. It would have brought the Bundy family back to life with all the original cast. Christina was set to return through voice acting, the only kind of work she could still do. But in July 2025, the project was cancelled. The studio left the door open, but for now, Kelly Bundy is gone. In 2023, Christina stepped into a new role. She showed up to the Emmys with a cane and made the world look at disability without looking away. She argued for accommodations behind the scenes. She told producers she needed help getting dressed and support on set, and they listened. Years earlier, she had survived breast cancer. Now she was using her voice for others with MS, cancer, or anyone who felt invisible.